Hold on to your hats, people. We have got a massive news video update today. According to reports, Chelsea have officially made an offer for a young 19-year-old German superstar left winger. Fabrizio Romano has come out with his say on the Enzo Fernandez situation. Kieran McGill speaks about the BlueCO model and also talks about whether Liam Rosenior is truly under that much pressure at Chelsea at the moment. Some updates on Trevoh Chalobah's injury situation. We're going to talk a little bit about Enzo Maresca and if he could really get that Man City job. And if you make it through that far to the video, I found one very wholesome piece of social media content to share with you about a Chelsea player and his dog. Welcome, Blue Believers, to another episode of the Stamford Sync, where we are syncing up with everything Chelsea FC. And today, oh man, we have got a lot to go through. So without much in the way of further ado, let's get into it. But guys, if you are enjoying my content and would like to see more, please do me the distinct honour of liking and sharing the video, subscribe to the channel, or just roast me in the comments, whatever gets you through your day. I'm on the race to 2,000 subs before the end of the season, so guys, if you could smack that subscribe button for me and click like on this video to get it out to more people, I'd really appreciate it. Right, so let's do it, man. The 19-year-old young superstar winger that we've been linked with, and not for the first time either. So, breaking: a local Köln newspaper claims Chelsea have communicated an offer to buy Saïd El-Mala and his brother. 38.8 mil and bonuses, and that's in pounds by the way, 4.3 million pounds per year in salary. For Saïd, unclear if Chelsea or Strasbourg. He is a left wing and there's a lot of competition at Chelsea. For his brother Malik, he will play in Chelsea's development side. So this was essentially reposted from a German content creator called Jasko, who broke the news about it being another 7-year contract, 5 mil salary. So Saïd El-Mala is a hot property in the Bundesliga at the moment, right? He is 19, right? He's a 19-year-old German international, and that's going to cause a lot of groans, I think, isn't it? Because, you know, what we were hoping, you know, after supposedly targeting the likes of Antoine Semenyo in the January window, we were hoping that we were going to go in for some big guns, right? But the thing is, with this one in particular, there's a little bit of nuance. The first thing is, as stated in PYS's tweet, it's not concrete whether he's going to go to Strasbourg or to Chelsea. I wouldn't necessarily expect him to come straight to Chelsea and compete with the likes of Jamie Gittins and Alejandro Garnacho, because if we've learned anything, it's like we need a bit of experience on that side for those young players to compete with, rather than just continuing to stock up, right? And the other thing to think about that is we've also got Giovanni Kenda coming in at the end of the season, another 18, 19-year-old, do you know what I mean? And then at that point, we're just going to have teenagers galore everywhere. And what we're seeing after the losses to PSG, the loss to Newcastle, the difficult patch of form, do you know what I mean? The draws against Burnley and Leeds that we've been on as well, we need to really get some experience in there, and we need to start bringing in people who are going to add to the team. Now, that is not to say that Saïd El-Mala is not a good player in his own right, but another 19-year-old coming from the Bundesliga begs some questions, doesn't it? So let's just have a little look at Saïd El-Mala's stats for the season so far. This is just in the Bundesliga. He's made 26 appearances. He started 12 of those games, so he's mostly been coming on as a sub. He played 50 minutes per game, and he's been in the Bundesliga team of the week once. Impressive for a 19-year-old, and in that time, in those 12 starts, essentially, he scored 9 goals and got 3 assists. So he's already outperforming the likes of Jamie Gittins, and I'm pretty sure close at least to outperforming Alejandro Garnacho. But again, the caveat is that he is in the Bundesliga, and obviously 19-year-old in the Bundesliga, very different prospect from a 19-year-old in the Premier League, largely because of how much it comes down to physicality, right? But at the end of the day, 9 goals, 3 assists for a kid that's not really starting that often is really impressive. So look, do I think that he should come in? I mean, yeah, you know, this is the kind of talent that most teams would want to hoover up at this point, isn't it? Because we're not just looking at an academy player that scored a few goals or something. We're looking at a kid that's getting starting minutes in a good team. At the end of the day, Esteval Willian came from the Brazilian league, and we bought him at the age of 16 or whatever it was. Do you know what I mean? So it's not impossible that these things work. Does he come in to move the needle? No, I don't think so. Going to Strasbourg is probably the best option in that respect, unless we happen to buy another club before then, because, you know, it's gone quiet for a little while, but, you know, there are still talks about wanting to buy a South American club. They're very interested in buying a Portuguese club as well. But Strasbourg have got a really good right winger in Diego Moreira, who they also got from us, and maybe a left winger, and to potentially replace the outgoing Omega. I know Omega's a striker, but just to replace that attacking impetus, and to get him to develop over there wouldn't be an absolutely terrible idea. I like the look of the player. I think he looks really good, but not 100% convinced that bringing another 19-year-old into the Chelsea squad right now is really the best way to go. Guys, tell me what you think in the comments. Is this just another case of BlueCO love buying youngsters and whatever, but this one seems to have a little bit more about him than the ones we normally go for, and this isn't the first time we've been linked with him. So let me know in the comments what you think about Saïd El-Mala. Moving on, we're going to talk a little bit more about Enzo Fernandez. I've talked a lot about Enzo Fernandez over the last few days, but I am going to keep it a little bit more brief this time. Fabrizio Romano has had something to say on the situation. I can reveal that Enzo and Chelsea have been talking for some months over new contract details, but there has been no agreement or solution found yet. That means that if this continues and no agreement can be found on new terms, Enzo would be open to exploring leaving Chelsea. These comments from Enzo all started due to no agreement yet behind the scenes over fresh new salary terms. Chelsea are in control over the situation and will not give any discount on the price. So there's a couple of interesting things to break down from Fabrizio Romano's tweet here, because one thing that came out the other day was there's no word of a contract improvement or a contract situation, whereas the likes of Moises Caicedo, Cole Palmer, even Nicholas Jackson got a contract extension after his first season at Chelsea. Enzo Fernandez has categorically been one of our top performers, albeit stylistically there's conversations to have about whether he's the best fit for the team, but 60 goals, just less than 60 goals and assists over the 3 years that he's been here so far. He would rightly be aggrieved for watching these other guys around him get contract extensions and not getting anything for himself. So if this is, what this tells me is it's not even just the Chelsea situation at the moment that is making Enzo Fernandez so frustrated. It's the contract situation, because like I say, he's obviously going in with what he wants for his new terms. And the thing is, without any detail, it's difficult to say, would I give Enzo Fernandez 300k a week? Just for example, at the moment, no, I probably wouldn't. Would I put him on the same as what Cole Palmer's on? Yeah, probably, because if you think about, Cole Palmer obviously has had a breakout season and really good performances, but spread over the course of the last 3 seasons for a player of his position, he's done pretty well. But at the same time, we are going to need to sell some players. That is just the truth. We've got fringe players to sell, but if Enzo Fernandez does get sold, that frees up a lot of squad cost ratio and gives us liquid money to spend on new players as well. So I do think the Enzo Fernandez situation is 100% looking like the one to watch in the summer. So guys, again, let me know what you think in the comments about Enzo Fernandez. Should Chelsea offer him a huge contract? Should we give him the Reece James treatment? Should we give him the Caicedo treatment, the Cole Palmer treatment, or even just the Nicholas Jackson treatment and keep him until 2032, 2033? Let me know what you think. Moving on, we're going to talk a little bit about Kieran Gill. Kieran Gill has been reporting a couple of bits about Chelsea recently, and the first thing I'm going to talk about is pertaining to the Chelsea board and their strategy. So, Chelsea Dodgers reposted via Kieran Gill, is there any news about the Chelsea board tweaking their strategy? I haven't heard anything to suggest a change from the current strategy, which seems to prioritise potential. We will see what the noise is sounding like closer to the summer. So, playing their cards close to their chest, essentially, man. The thing is, if we look at the piece of news that I opened this video with, the Saïd El-Mala news, absolutely not. Let's just, that's exactly the same, isn't it? They are doubling down on youth. But the different thing about that is when we seem to offer these kind of deals, before the season and stuff, they are longer term things. I don't think we're looking at Saïd El-Mala to bring him into the squad. I think we might be looking at someone like him for a long-term development thing, a la David Datro Fofana, Omari Kellyman, David Washington, a lot of these players that unfortunately haven't done very well for us. But at the same time, we did this with Giovanni Cunda, didn't we? We got him a season and a half before we looked to bring him into the squad at the end of the day. When he was 17, we bought him, and, he's looking at coming into the Chelsea squad at the start of next season. So I imagine Saïd El-Mala could be something like that. But either way, there's nothing from our perspective, or apparently Kieran Gill's perspective, saying that the board are looking to change their strategy at the moment. But truth be told, when it comes to the big players, right, the players that we want to talk about, right, this is the thing. It's easy to point at this and be like, BlueCO aren't changing. BlueCO aren't looking at bringing any any experience into the team. But at the same time, if you do, you don't do that now. You don't do that in March. Do you know what I mean? We're not going and looking at, players to come in and improve the first team when they've got 10 games left. There's a World Cup to come. Do you know what I mean? There's so much still of the season left to go at the moment. I'm not expecting to see those players that could come in and move the needle, and potentially new centre backs, new left winger, centre attack competition, the likes of Morgan Rogers for Cole Palmer. We're not going to see anything like that until towards the end of the season, really. Do you know what I mean? So it is just going to be a waiting game, I'm afraid. And I do think if we do see any transfer news leading up into the next month or so, it's probably going to be more of the likes of Saeed El-Mala, where it's going to be young people that have more open-ended futures, and it's not quite so dramatic. Do you know what I mean? If they talk about leaving their clubs at this time, it does kind of make sense. But that doesn't mean I don't think we'll see anything in the summer. It's a feeling. It's probably a huge amount of hope and copium that we're going to buy some big players in the summer. How old they are, how experienced they are, I don't know, but something just to me feels like we can't look at this season and be like, yeah, this is working, we're just going to keep going with it. And, we have to improve the first team. I am going to pin my hopes on that as a Chelsea fan because I can't give up on my club. Moving on, we're sticking with Kieran Gilbert. He's talking about Liam Rosenior, and we've got a couple of little bits from a few different posters because there's some slightly different nuance in the way that it's been phrased. So Liam Rosenior obviously having a terrible time at the moment. Lots and lots and lots of talk between people on social media, pundits. He's not good enough for the job. Do you know what I mean? This, that and the other. And obviously what we're really looking at the moment is all of the big competition that Liam Rosenior has come up against so far, largely in the form of Arsenal and PSG. He's not managing to get results out of. But PYS reposted via Kieran McGill, Liam Rosenior maintains a good relationship with those upstairs. It is not the case that Chelsea are already losing patience with him. So look, this is important context, isn't it? And if I'm completely honest, this is how I thought it would be. When I think about it's easy to to get hopped up in the moment, isn't it? And be like, oh, he's not good enough, we're losing these games, we have to get rid of him. But I look at how Chelsea are dealing with managers in general, and it's a bit of a juxtaposition because the manager turnover has been absolutely huge, but the nuance has not been just they're sacking everyone, right? Think about Graham Potter. Graham Potter was awful, and I'm not getting that vibe from Liam Rosenior just yet. At the end of the day, Liam Rosenior, as of right now, is going through a similar patch of bad form to what Enzo Maresca recently went through. Recently, just before he left his job. And the salient point in there is BlueCO didn't sack Enzo Maresca. He walked. It was his decision. He decided to walk away without that payout because he couldn't handle it anymore. BlueCO backed Graham Potter until the bitter end, and I didn't agree with that because Graham Potter was awful, but Liam Rosenior's not there yet, is he? And they want a guy for the long term. They want a guy to build with. So regardless of what we think as fans at the moment, I 100% believe this. There's also a similar post from Chelsea Dodgers, I assume responding to the same news. We are told Liam Rosenior maintains a good relationship with those upstairs at Chelsea, as he did when managing Strasbourg. And this is the important addendum. Agents of players say the squad like Rosenior and are behind him. So one of the things that's being talked about at the moment is the players aren't playing for him. Do you know what I mean? And I don't necessarily, based on this, that doesn't sound to be true. If the agents are putting it out there that they're happy with him, at the end of the day, the agents have their players' best interests at the forefront of anything that they do. So if there was unhappiness with the manager, then the agents would be coming out and saying he's lost the players, and that would be one of two things. That would either be trying to put outward pressure on BlueCO to change the manager, or it would be in a look to get their agent, to try and get them moved to other clubs, to try and notify other clubs, this player's not happy, this player's not happy, they don't like the project, they don't like the manager. But if this is true and the agents are coming out saying that the players are behind Rosenior, then that's actually another kind of nod to the idea that he probably is going to be here next season. And I've been saying this for a while. There's been conflicting news because some people have been saying if he doesn't make Champions League, then he's under pressure and he's gone. I just don't think that's true, unfortunately. If we look at how BlueCO have dealt with managers in general, Graham Potter didn't get sacked until he was in 12th place, and we're not doing quite that bad at the moment. Mauricio Pochettino left after a year because he wasn't interested in the project. Enzo Maresca comes in. Enzo Maresca walks away because he couldn't handle the project even though he signed up to it. Liam Rosenior has got experience with BlueCO under Strasbourg. He's come into a very difficult moment where the squad is really torn apart, especially through injury. He's not having a great time at the moment, but we as fans are always going to be the most hyperbolic about it, 100%. And I get it because we expect better things from our squads and our managers. But as far as BlueCO go, it's the same with the model. Do you know what I mean? They're not abandoning the model because things aren't working. So why would they abandon the manager because things aren't currently working as well? This isn't me supporting all of this. This is me just like dissecting all of the news and the history of what we've seen under BlueCO so far. And personally, unless things get really bad, like if we don't win another game for the end of the season, we can see 3 goals a match, then yeah, okay, maybe there's a conversation to be had. But Maresca was supported through bad patches of form. Graham Potter was supported through bad patches of form and these are the 3 managers that they've put on big contracts. Pochettino doesn't count in that one. He only got given a 2-year deal. That was never going to be long term. Thomas Tuchel was ousted because he wasn't the right fit for them in a professional manner, right? But if you look at all of the managers, Graham Potter got a 7-year deal. He was stuck with until it was impossible not to. Enzo Maresca, 5.5-year deal. He ended up walking. Liam Rosenior has been given a 6.5-year deal. You don't just give him a 6.5-year deal and then sack him after a few months because the results aren't going the way you want and you've put unrealistic pressure on him. So look, that's just kind of what I think based on how the news is looking as well. So guys, let me know what you think about in the comments. Do you think that Liam Rosenior is going to be here next season? Personally, for good or for bad, I don't think it matters. This isn't my opinion on whether I want him to be here next season. I just don't think he's going anywhere, so I'm going to continue to back him for the meantime. Let me know what you think in the comments. Next up, we're going to move on to a update about Trevoh Chalobah from Matt Law, posted via Chelsea Dodgers. Chelsea are still waiting on the result of a scan to determine the severity of Trevoh Chalobah's injury. Obviously, in the PSG game, he was stretchered off. Do you know what I mean? He was stretchered off and it looked really, really bad. He took a really aggressive looking tackle from Achraf Hakimi and stretchered off. So that was instant worry because even though he might not be top level, he's been our most consistent centre-back this season. And with the run-in that we've got for the rest of the season, both Man United clubs, we've got Liverpool still to play. Do you know what I mean? And, it's going to be really tough, isn't it? Even Tottenham, do you know what I mean? Who seem a little bit resurgent at the moment, unfortunately. There was optimism last night and this morning that it wasn't as bad as feared, but yet to receive confirmation from a scan. So we're not going to see him for Everton. I wouldn't have thought, do you know what I mean? But it might be a case of only a week or 2 rather than the rest of the season or something like that. So some small positive maybe about Trevoh Chalobah being available for the rest of the season. I think Mamadou Sarr, that was a faux pas from Rosenior to play him as a right back in that game the other day, and he's maybe lost a little bit of confidence, so maybe we can't rely on him as much as we'd like to going into the rest of the season. Wesley Fofana has had really patchy form at the moment. We don't want to see Badiashile. We don't want to see Tosin. Do you know what I mean? It is, really Trevoh Chalobah being available for the rest of the season is where we're going to have to pin a lot of our hopes on keeping our defence as solid as possible. Guys, let me know what you think about it in the comments. I'm just going to finish up with 2 slightly extraneous pieces of news today. Well, 1 extraneous piece of news and 1 little wholesome piece of social media content. So we're going to talk about Enzo Maresca. PYS reposted via Fabrizio Romano, the name already identified to become the next Man City manager should Pep Guardiola leaves remains former Chelsea manager Enzo Maresca. So supposedly Maresca is the top replacement candidate for Pep Guardiola at Man City. And personally, I don't think that's just as simple as they rate Enzo Maresca anywhere near what they rate Pep Guardiola, because we had him as a manager and yes, won 2 trophies, did well with the squad 100%, but can you imagine being Erling Haaland or Bernardo Silva or, do you know what I mean, Tierney Reinders, or, well, maybe not so much Tierney Reinders, but some, Erling Haaland in particular. You have Pep Guardiola, you've done the treble, you've scored, like you've beaten scoring records across the board. Pep Guardiola leaves and then Enzo Maresca comes in. Are you like, yeah, I'm up for it? Like, and look at how Enzo Maresca was with our strikers at Chelsea. Do you know what I mean? Like, really, really not very good at all. He put so much emphasis on his wingers and turning fullbacks into midfielders that our strikers really, really suffered from Enzo Maresca's tactical tenure at Chelsea. So if I were to put on my little tinfoil hat, I actually think that if this is true, this might be linked to the fact that they're expecting to get a massive points deduction, because you would have thought that they go for like a Luis Enrique or someone like that. Do you know what I mean? Someone that they could really, really, or even a Mikel Arteta. Do you know what I mean? Even a Mikel Arteta, someone who's got experience, at a top level. Luis Enrique obviously is winning stuff. Mikel Arteta has been challenging for the league season on season, and also has that kind of, he's the best Pep disciple at the moment in Mikel is Mikel Arteta. Whether he's just that committed to the Arsenal job or that, I don't know. But it seems like Man City are one of the few clubs in the world at the moment that could have their pick of managers, right? And Enzo Maresca, to me, doesn't sound like we're bringing him in to carry on Pep's work. Do you know what I mean? It much more feels to me like we're expecting things to be difficult for the next couple of seasons. So we're going to get a transitional manager who can grow with what is now quite a young squad. Do you know what I mean? They've really had a massive revamp. You think about, I mentioned Tiani Reinders, Ryan Cherky, the Savino Doku, like they've got a brand new squad essentially. And I don't see Pep Guardiola leaving, Enzo Maresca coming in with the squad that they've got at the moment and him just carrying on their challenges, right? So we've obviously, as Chelsea fans, we've just had our punishment for the 75 charges. Man City's is still ongoing, and because they fought it tooth and nail, if they lose, they're looking at massive points deduction. It's been, I think it was Stefan Borson on TalkSport, talking about if you take what Nottingham Forest and Everton got and multiply it by the amount of charges, you're essentially looking at somewhere 40 plus point deduction, right? Which is basically potentially relegation if they have a bad season. And if they get a 40 point deduction next season, Pep Guardiola leaves, Enzo Maresca comes in. They're not looking at challenging for the league. They need someone to navigate them through that period, and Enzo Maresca could probably do that. Do you know what I mean? So I just personally, look, maybe it happens, but I don't think if it happens, I don't think Enzo Maresca just goes to Man City to take over the good job that Pep's been doing and to carry on challenging and winning. Even just targeting Enzo Maresca, to me, signals that they think they're in for a bit of a difficult transitional period and they need someone there. They won't be, if they get the 40 point deduction, they can't attract the biggest managers. No one's going to go to City with winning pedigree and be like, yeah, cool, I'll take the 40 point deduction. I'll take, essentially a relegation battle before we've even kicked a ball for the season. But for Enzo Maresca, it's such a massive job and he is ideally looking for something long term as he was with Chelsea. That's kind of what I think about that. Guys, let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think Enzo Maresca goes to Man City and just dominates and just carries on the Pep legacy? Personally, I don't. But guys, let me know what you think. And if you've made it this far to the video, this isn't a piece of news. This is just something I saw. Chelsea Dodgers reposted today a picture of Mark Yu via his Instagram and his good boy. Look at that dog, man. Look at that dog. Do you know what I mean? And the reason I'm putting this, because if you're a Chelsea fan, like me, things have been rough recently and we need to find any little scrap of wholesomeness that we can. I like Mark Yu and I like his dog. There it is. Enjoy it in all of its glory. So guys, I'm going to start wrapping the video up there, but I will do one more call to action because I really, really, really want to reach this goal. I'm on the run to 2,000 subs. I feel like I can have an absolutely massive summer and I want that summer to be built off a 2K number on my subs. So please guys, if you've made it this far into the video, I'd really, really, really appreciate it if you can click any of the algorithmical buttons that are available to you. Click like. If you've got any hype points throwing my way, click subscribe. Join the fun. It's going to be great. Nice one, guys. Thank you very much for sticking around until the end of the video. If you did, I will catch up with all of you very, very soon. Take it easy. Peace.